Hey everyone, and welcome to another video of Eat Well with Allergies. So today we're going to start doing my grandma's recipes. So this is all the recipes that I can have for my mom's mom, from my mom's mom. So I'm going to do these in alphabetical order, so it's not really a preference of sweet or savory, it's just alphabetical. So the first one we have is for apple bread. So for this one, you're going to need half a cup of butter, a cup of sugar. You're going to want to mix together 2 eggs, a teaspoon of vanilla, and that's basically it for that. And for the dry ingredients, you're going to want to mix together 2 cups of flour, a teaspoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of baking soda, and half a teaspoon of salt. And you're also going to want to mix together a tablespoon of sugar and a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. You're also going to want 2 cups of pared apples. Not P-E-A-R, P-A-R-E. So these are basically diced, kind of. So you slice half of an apple about 4 ways down the long side, and then you slice it about 3 times. So you make these little cubes. And these haven't browned that much. When you leave apples in the fridge without anything on them, they brown. These actually didn't brown that much because I had a nice covering of press and seal. So let's get started. So first, let me get into my iPod so we can. The reason I don't get into my iPod right away is because my battery on my iPod is shot. So, why is it on square? There we go. So we're gonna start with the half a cup of butter into the mixer, and I did soften this overnight, so it is a little soft. So this will be easier mixing. And we're gonna add the cup of sugar. So we're going to cream those 2 together. And that didn't take that long. It only took a few seconds because the butter is softened and the sugar is in every part of the butter. So now, in any cookie recipe or cake recipe, you cream together butter and sugar, except if you're doing a different method. And then you add some liquid to make sure that it's in liquid form before you add the dry ingredients. So that is going to be the egg mixture and the vanilla. And this is whole eggs, or at least for mine. So just let me wipe off my egg replacer into the bowl and wipe off my finger. So, and then we're gonna combine those 2. And you can see that's now in these like little ribbon things from where the beater is, so it's holding together a little more. So now we're gonna wipe down the sides of the bowl. My spatula is currently in the dishwasher, so I have to make do with the spoon. You know, the good old spoon. So I'm gonna add about half the flour, put it up, and start out slow. Put down the bowl and add the rest of the flour and the baking soda and the baking powder and the salt. Okay, so now it's breadcrumbs, which I don't understand. But when you press it together, it becomes one dough. So hopefully the liquid from the apples will get into that and put it together. Because I've never made this recipe before, so I have no idea. But if you press it together, it becomes something. So I'm going to put my paddle there, and then I'm going to put this off. Okay, and then I'm going to add the 2 cups of apples. So, just going to mix those in. And I have no idea why it's so crumbly. But hopefully it turns out good. Maybe it needs more liquid. Okay, so if you put together a little bit of the mixture becomes something, right? So it becomes something. So that's what it becomes when I squish it together. So I'm just gonna wipe off my hands a little bit, and I have a 9.5 by 5.5 loaf pan, and I just greased and floured it, and now I'm going to put the mixture and kind of smoosh it down so it's not like crumbles. So now I'm gonna put that in view. Hopefully that can stay. So I'm gonna grab a bunch of the mixture and put it in with my hands. So I'm gonna get a bunch of the mixture in my hands because the spoon is too small to get any of this in. And if you smush it down, the apples, the liquid from the apples, it's not what I wanted. My hands are all make do. Okay, so my camera fell down. So now I'm just gonna try and get the rest of this mixture in. So now I'm gonna just smush it down into the pan to make sure it's all compact. Just use the heel of your hand and push it down. Try and smush everything into compact. Try and get it on the same level. And I'm just using my thumb around the edges because it pushes it out. And I'm pushing it down to the same level. Try and get in those corners. Try and not make your hands a complete mess. My hands are a complete mess. So I'm going to wash my hands real quick because I want my hands dry for this next part, or else I'm going to be covered in cinnamon and sugar. That's some very cold water. Okay, so the next part is you're going to take the cinnamon and sugar that you mixed together and you're going to sprinkle it on top. So it's kind of like applesauce, I guess. So I'm going to get a spoon and I'm just going to sprinkle it on. And then it will be a apple cinnamony mixture. So get in those corners, just slightly sprinkle all that you can. And hopefully this will turn out good. I don't think we've actually ever made this recipe because it's been in our recipe box for years and years. Okay, so now I'm just gonna kind of sprinkle that around. 350-degree oven for about 50 to 60 minutes, so almost an hour. I'm gonna put this in. about in 50 minutes. I'm gonna do 55 minutes. And hopefully this turns out well. In the meantime, I'm gonna clean up and I'll basically have lost 5 minutes. And then I'm just gonna relax until I have to do the outro. Because 55 minutes is a long time. So I'll see you in about 55 minutes when I see if this is done or not. Okay, so it's at 55 minutes and it looks done. So let me just bring my camera over here so you can see. So that's it. And now I'm gonna see if I can kind of scrape around the edges to loosen it, to see if I can get it out onto a cooling sheet. So I'm just scraping around the edges, kind of pushing into the pan to kind of not break up the loaf, and it kind of gets some of the flour off, but that's okay. That usually happens. So I'm gonna take it off the plate. So I'm gonna put a plate over it. I'm gonna put that over there. I'm gonna put a plate over it and try and flip over with these huge oven mitts, which happened. So now I'm gonna take that off. Very loud noise. And then I'm going to get another plate so I don't make a mess. And then I'm gonna flip it over onto a cooling sheet. So, okay, so that kind of didn't work. It's very heavy set. So I'm gonna flip it over again so I can. I'm making a mess of my oven with all the cinnamon and sugar. So I'm gonna take off the cooling sheet because you can see it kind of got onto the ridges, and if I let it sit there, then it was going to sink into the cooling sheet. So I'm gonna flip it over again onto a plain plate, no cooling rack. And that way it'll just cool all natural. So it does look, I'm gonna let it cool before I start pushing and poking and slicing. But if I push into it, it stays in the way, and it does look good. So I'm gonna stop that. I'm gonna, before the cinnamon and sugar goes everywhere, I'm gonna at least push it away from the stove a little. So that is apple bread. So that's the video. Please like, share, subscribe, check out my Facebook page, all that kind of stuff. And next week I will be making apple brownies. I know, I just said that. And I've never had them before. So we'll both have experience with apple brownies. See you next week.